Hello, this is Jorge Sanders. I'm author of Deprogramming the Clone into the Human Hybrid. This is my latest book right here. It's available in Amazon and also in three major bookstores here in Puerto Rico: Casa Norberto, Librería Laberinto in Viejo San Juan, and also The Bookmark, which is in San Patricio and Santurce. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the book and give you guys a better idea of what this 500-page book contains. And it's sometimes very hard to express this when it comes to, just showing images on Instagram and kind of, trying to say a lot with the little space you have there that, you can actually express something regarding the book. So today we're going to kind of get into the meat of things and actually, just skim through the book real quickly. So first I'll start with the dedication I have, which I think in a way summarizes the purpose of the book. So, Deprogramming the Clone into the Human Hybrid is dedicated to all who are starting to realize the glorified military industrial amusement park that contain us. This book is for those who aspire to go against all that subdue the human race and enslave, kill, and destroy nature to fit their insane agenda. To those who are waking up from the spell and realize that the mold that contains them is feeling uncomfortable and now feel a desire to break free, I dedicate all of my work. If you feel the urge to synchronize yourself with a higher vibrational frequency waveform designed to set you free from this oppressive matrix, this book is for you. A waveform frequency that derives from our Creator about true origins that we have long forgotten. This message begins to guide us in the journey to cross the threshold that contains humanity imprisoned within programmed lies. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but my sincere appreciation also to all those authors that have taught and inspired me with their incredible research and body of work to believe in myself and question absolutely everything until one gets closer to the ultimate truth. I dedicate this book. So in essence, this book is for those who want to wake up, basically. It's a wake-up call. And this book helps in terms of explaining a lot of our origins, our predicament, and actually our current stand in this whole story, this human story or human hybrid story. I'm going to go through the first chapters just to skim through them, and then I'm going to explain a little bit of what the contents are. So this book starts basically with the creation of God and the hybrids of Eden, in which I explore a lot of the theories of creation that were basically taught through different religions, civilizations. I start with the Sumerian. I concentrate a little bit more on that since today we are so bombarded with the ancient alien theories about the Anunnaki and how they created us and gave us basically all the tools to create this civilization that we currently live basically on. So I start with their story. I start with all the theories read and studied by Zecharia Sitchin, William Bramley, Eric von Daniken, all these major figures in that are propelling this theory to be widely accepted. In a way, it's really interesting because it's actually very widely accepted, and also it's sort of become a new religion in a way. Just a lot of people are really following this and substituting basically God for these aliens. And in a way, they are turning a lot of people away from Christianity into believing that we came from these creatures back in the Sumerian times, So from that, I explain, I make you feel, as an author, one of my jobs is to sometimes put you in the skin of the hominid, when he was there and these ships, vessels or spaceships came in, invaded the sky and started to abduct all these creatures, what they felt like, what did it feel like, how were their rights and liberties taken away from them, and I really try to make you understand and and feel what they felt, what sounds, strange sounds they went through when they got on the ships, when they were paralyzed with their technology, when they were genetically manipulated. And the way I write that is basically with the purpose of identifying yourself with the hominid, which is not something I believe in. I don't think we came from apes, but everyone believes the widely accepted theory, the Darwin theory of evolution, which basically proposes that we came from these hominid-like beings. So I, in spite of not going along with that theory, I do initially adhere you to that train of thought because it's what you've been programmed with. So it's sort of a way of understanding it. So from there, I start actually going and explaining a little bit on what the aliens did, how they influenced secret societies, how did the Brotherhood of the Serpent become. I talk a little bit about the Jewish Order of the Human Hybrids. I talk about how in every aspect the Jewish culture was involved, whether it's the Ark of the Covenant, the pyramids, every major event in history, in some way or another, the Jewish community or people are involved. So that required me to study a lot about the Jewish. I had to go to Shabbat, talk to rabbis, find out what they believe, what they think about Jesus, what the Ark of the Covenant actually had, what was it. I do talk about a powerful weapon called the Ark of the Covenant, the energetic application of the ephod, which was the vest that the high priest used to get near the Ark. All of that for me is incredibly interesting to figure out what this device was, so powerful that no one could even get close to it. So this is something that fascinated me, and I got a little bit into that research of finding out what the stones were in the ephod, what the crystals were. Was this an electrical capacitor? Was this a technological alien weapon? Was this a mana machine? I just find that this technology was very fascinating, and even till today, a lot of times I ask Jewish people about it, and they don't even want to explain. They're like, well, that's they don't dwell on that. It's for them, it's a godly technology, so we shouldn't even worry about that. But to me, it's something that really fascinates me. So I do have a couple of chapters on the Jewish Order of the Human Hybrids. The Jewish Order again rebelled against the Brotherhood of the Serpent, and they've been at constant war since the beginning. Whether it's bringing it a little bit to more contemporary times with the Nazis and the Jewish. That war it's ancient as time. It's nothing that happened just when the Nazis were around. They've always been persecuted, and rightfully so. They had technology, and they were God's chosen people. So that creates already an incredible envy, with other groups. I talk about the Lemuria and Atlantis. I get a little bit into that, and not following the traditional line of thought of Plato and what they thought that Atlantis was. I get actually more a little bit into describing more an Atlantis that is energetic, that is actually it became a hub. It became something where it became an energetic anomaly that all these different energies throughout the universe migrated to, and actually seeded this energetic Earth at the time, and started to manifest until they were basically attacked by other types of energies, and that starts to create the fall of what that Atlantis or Lemuria was, and it became solid, and all these energetic forms took on different shapes. They became mineral, part of the mineral, vegetable, animal, environment, and they just became solid, and the world solidified, and it raised from a very high frequency. It lowered actually its frequency into this current material form that we're in. So it's a little bit of different of a theory on what happened in with Lemuria, or the land of Mu as they called it, or with Atlantis that came later. After that, I get into the pyramids and the pyramid dreamscape. And this, I actually dwell a little bit more about dreams and what their meanings are. And, the pyramid represents an initiation to a higher frequency. So it actually becomes a portal to the dream world, So I talk a lot about that. I actually talk about dreams and the revelations. I talk about how they actually how they affect us in every way, Then I get into the departure of the Anunnaki. Why did they leave us? So what happened? What were the pyramid wars, the territorial wars that these creatures had? In areas trying to subjugate the human hybrid, and then how the hybrids rebelled against them, and that's the old kind of story, if you will. Always us trying to rebel against the gods because we want to be like the gods. So we try to grow and to outdo them. We make a huge Tower of Babel, trying to recreate or get back to where we think we should be. I also talk about why did they leave? Why did the Anunnaki leave? Why aren't they around? So from there, I actually jump a little bit, leave the ancient alien, and get into a totally different, I guess, alien, which is the Avatar. I get into the Jesus construct. The Jesus construct is a bit, delicate when it comes to the sensibilities of other religious people, because I do explore the solar deity with a very crucial and analytic and multi dimensional approach. I see Jesus as different constructs, whether it's a solar deity, whether it's the Jewish rebellious man, whether it's a Christian God, the monomyth, I explore that. The need that we have of believing in a monomyth, that's one thing I explore. I explored the avatars throughout various centuries, not only Jesus, but all types of different avatars that have actually come and tried to, help mankind, better themselves, or to try to steer away from a chaotic world. They come at different times with different creations to steer humanity in the right direction. I also talk about a weapon of colonization and spiritual domination called Jesus, how Jesus also has been used as a weapon against us, and I also talk about Jesus' message to humanity about the end of times. I talk about a planetary god called Jesus. I talk about Michael of Nebadon, which is Jesus, but to the, Urantia, which is Earth. Basically, they believe it was Michael of Nebadon, not Jesus. So they have a different name for it. And everyone has a different name, not only them. Sananda for the New Agers, they have a lot of different, names and faces. So it's I explore all of these aspects. Then from there, I get into a different chapter. I just move, it's really hard to cover every single period in history when it comes to this, But I jump to the inner architecture of mass distraction, constructing the fairyland. So there I talk about how these secret societies have gotten together and with very powerful personas to create Disney and many other entertainment or distraction centers, if you will, to keep the crowds and away from reality and distracted. So I wrote a little bit on that. And that was a little hard because that's you're messing with America's pretty boy, Walt Disney. So that's hard to actually get into. A lot of the writers who have actually tried that have failed miserably, if you will. So for me, it was actually hard snippet to get into, because I, as a young man, did like Disney a lot. I grew up as a kid also loving their stuff, so it was hard for me to see beyond that, to the point where I'm like, wow, what's really this huge complex about, and all this merchandise and all these, stories and all this fantasy. What is this really about? So um, to actually explore it as an adult at times was very uncomfortable, to realize. And I remember going to the park also and not being even able to enjoy it. I would feel like I was being herded through the experience and monitored, and just it just felt wrong. So I explored that, and I explored all the conspiracy theories, the ties between Disney and Werner von Braun and all the Nazis and the CIA and the Freemasons. So I get a little bit into that. So how are we hypnotized? The agenda of mass media, how the mass media is used to distract us. The elite agenda for global domination. What is it that they want? I start getting into that. The rape of Earth's natural resources. The expansion into space, the secret space program. I get into that as well. And then at the end it would be countdown to extinction. How is this? What's the end game? What's happening? And this is something that we're living right now with the coronavirus pandemic. The chapter 5 would be unplugging from isolation into a higher sense of realization. This whole chapter is about Edward Lee Skolnin being the pioneer of living out of the grid and connecting with your inner self to discover technology that was long lost, and then how it propelled other inventors and other people to grow in different areas of study. I go from Edward Lee Skolnin to Tesla to the Searle effect generator to all these other pioneers on on levitation and anti-gravitic devices, as man-made UFOs and things like that. But I do talk about Edward Lee Skolnin and what he made in Coral Castle, the science behind it, and how it influenced a lot of different things, the symbols, the clues, how Edward's mind became a catalyst for discovering alien technology. I'm going to try to go a little bit further here and faster because it's a lot of stuff, guys. This book is heavy. This is not something that's very just about aliens, hominids, and secret societies. It covers a lot of different things. Then I have a chapter dedicated to the man on the moon, the exploring the whole conspiracy of all these astronauts and the United States, faking the lunar landings and why that happened, and I explore all of the different facets, from the people who do believe that that we went to the moon to the people who don't, and I basically make you explore and question all the different beliefs that regarding this phenomenon. So I get there with Stanley Kubrick. Obviously has a lot to do with that. I talk about the late Werner von Braun and how he was instrumental in this. And I talk about life on the moon. A lot of people think there's a lot of life going on and activity on the moon, so I do explore that as well. And from there, I start getting into a chapter on aliens. That's, different aliens. We call it the alien prison guards. I got that because I read this Whitley Strieber book, The Key, I remember. And I remember there was a part that this, guest, basically explained to Whitley that, the aliens were our prison guards. They were the ones who are, when we see a UFO, you're seeing the prison guards. They're checking on us, making sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I talk about the aliens, and here I really didn't dwell too much on that. I would have to get a lot into that. There's so many aliens right now, that are discovered or allegedly seen and described, and they all change. So I just went through a couple of them just to give people a basic idea Some of them are they don't have a lot of hype, and I actually got into them, like the Hathors, this alien species that was in Egypt. You know, huge in interdimensional, basically frequency based aliens, which were able to heal with sound. They were able to feed themselves with sound, and to construct everything was based on harmonics and sound. So that for me was a very interesting race to talk about a little bit. A lot of people don't give the Hathors a lot of attention nowadays. They go more with the Greys or the reptilians. Obviously, I talk about the reptilians. I did have to get in there, just to chime in a little bit on David Icke's, reptilian, descriptions and things like that. I have to get into that. The characteristics of the reptilian race also. I talk about the Pleiadians, the New Age religion created around them, the Nordics, the Arturians. I talk about the UFO phenomenon. I talk about the Greys. I talk about the... also, I get into the Vault of the Forbidden Arts, which is basically talking about all these different places and strategically placed all over the world that contain all these secrets and all these incredible marvels that we don't have access to, So I get a little bit into that as well. The Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, how that's, some people say that's the real Area 51, talk about Area 51, Area 52, the underground base at Dulce, Mexico, NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. I talk about DARPA. I talk about what would happen after disclosure. I talk about that as well. And then we move into a totally different theme, which is the genetically impaired human hybrids. So now we're getting into more contemporary times on how genetically we're being tampered with and changed as a species, to, again, lower our vibrational state and to be basically clones, which is what they want. They want, subservient clones that will obey and do everything they say, and live and work to keep all of those people afloat and above us. The genetic mutation of the human hybrid. I talk about the war that's being waged against us currently through air, water, food, mass media, every possible different technique they use to keep us, altered and scared and worried. And, so I go a little bit into that. I talk about Project Cloverleaf. I talk about ancient Egypt and the genetically modified gods. Again, old concepts are still very, very much alive. This is not something that's just happening today, guys. That's why it's important to revisit the past. Engineered humans. I talk about the electromagnetic radiation and how it affects our bioelectrical system. I talk about the vibrations of Gaia or Mother Earth. I talk about the modification of Gaia harmonics through all these 5G cell phone towers and tetra waves and all these different frequencies that are creating a sort of electromagnetic jail or dome around us, so we really don't receive the information and thought forms from the universe or the sun. It's blocking all that stuff. I talk about the history of the human hybrid. And then I get into Urantia, and this is the part that our fellow Urantians are going to love. I talk about how that came about, and William Sadler, and, for those who don't know about Urantia, it's a brief introduction into it, and, I do recommend getting into that book, but that's a 2,000-page book or more. I don't know. It's really just a lot of pages. I talk about Eden, the modern military containment field. I talk about us becoming the Anunnaki gods, the new robotic order and the displacement of the human hybrids, the birth of the human cyborg, and how AI technology and robotics are merging nowadays. So they're creating these these humans, 2.0, basically, that will replace us, and we're going to have to compete against in our near future. I talk about the fall of the human cyborg project, immortality, and then I make a little switch from transhumanism. I get into the glimpses into the glitches of reality, which is the paranormal aspect of life. I talk about my personal experiences with the paranormal, a mansion of lights and shadows, which basically tells all the story of what I went through when I was a kid in this haunted house, which had a lot of poltergeist activity, and I was part of that. So that for me became a very interesting learning ground and marked my life. A closer look at paranormal manifestations. Then I get into the ascension of the human hybrid. It's time. This is where the book starts becoming less dense and more positive into, okay, it's time for us to ascend. What are we going to do to unplug from the matrix and all that? So the book starts taking a different route here. It's not all doom and gloom. It's time, eliminating the alien parasites, leaving the body behind and discovering the energy contained within, living outside the grid, accepting the call. These are all different chapters, okay, and topics. Accessing the ultimate power of knowledge and letting go of fear, altering the program, returning to Earth and transforming humanity, transcending the threshold, the threshold that contain us. That is a chapter that gets into different things. There's always an ogre at the end of the threshold trying to keep you inside, so how do we defeat the ogre? Then I have another one called The Butterfly Starts to Fly. Then Life Begins. I talk about Antarctica and the flat earth, the elephant in the room. I think this is the part that a lot of people are going to go like, what the heck? No, don't tell me he's a flat earther. Oh my God, he sounded like the cool alien guy. Now he's talking about flat earth, and this is the part that actually it's not much, but it gets you into that big conspiracy theory, which if you start looking and researching and going and taking your time, it's very conflictive, because a lot of authors don't want to go there. They would just completely destroy their business, their book sales, their lectures. David Icke is not going to admit that we live in this dome and there's no space, there's water above, so that takes this whole reptilian thing to the trash, basically. And so a lot of them won't go there because they already have their businesses built around their books and their theories. So this is the one that I'm not afraid to follow, because I don't have anything to lose. This is my first time here, and I'm looking for the truth. I'm not looking to fit into any club or mold. I talk about the Shrine of Deception, which are all these, science museums. They're just one deception after the other, just trying to, take you away from the truth. Then I get a little bit into the art of deprogramming the clone into the human hybrid. So there I talk about my art. I talk about how I worked the visual aspect of this book and the conflict sometimes I had with myself as a writer when the artist felt like, okay, I'm going to express something completely different. So that was an interesting chapter for me to explore. Talk about fallen angels, the museum experience, the voyage to Eden, painting multidimensionally, deployment of the human hybrids, Enki the Anunnaki, deconstructing a solar god, the war against modern art, and then I ended up with that. I ended up with basically the art of deprogramming the clone, and talk a little bit about myself and the author, and that's it. So in a nutshell, sounds like a lot in this almost 30-something minute video, but it's actually full of information, guys. So it's, like the old adage, don't judge a book by its cover. The cover I had to sort of, looks a little bit deceptive, but it's very relevant to the book, because I wanted it a little bit sci-fi. I wanted you to believe that you were just, I want you to identify with this, this figure, this central figure that's just released himself, or from this whole chamber of programming. And the minute he does that, he's held at gunpoint, and he's actually supervised, by this Mason in the background, just making sure that he gets back into the capsule where they're going to keep on programming him. So to release yourself from all these thought waves and programs, and that is in essence the purpose of my book. So I think I talked a lot. I'll leave the rest up to you guys and for you to find out. I highly encourage you to check out my book. Once again, in Amazon.com, you can find yourself a copy. Supports independent, writers like myself, and we this is my first time at it, so please, I need all the support available, but mainly not for the monetary. I personally, as a writer, like any other writer, when we write something, the most important thing for us as writers is for us to reach the audience and for us to really have an impact on someone else's life. So that for me is my main reason that I would like you to purchase my book and to share it with other people and to share it with me. I'm very open about it, so you can let me know what you feel. A lot of people have done that. I'm very grateful, and the response has been very, very well received. So thank you. I wish that you can definitely take up on my challenge today, and to go ahead and take a little bit of that busy program time that you have throughout the day, and break away from it, and read my book. So little by little you start going through this journey that will blow your mind, and that would be the purpose. So you can, out of that explosion, find your own mind and find your own path and your own technology, not the ones that are you think are currently available, that have been designed by other people who want to control your destiny. So I invite you guys to take up on this book and to let me know how it's going. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, many blessings. As I always say, namaste from me to you, and keep in touch, guys.